I created Ashley Boca Mindfulness Foundation to honor the life of my daughter, Ashley Boca, and by helping others in their mental health journey. Ashley was diagnosed late in life with borderline personality disorder and lost her battle just before her 32nd birthday. I don't want anyone else to have a similar outcome as Ashley. And as a result, we believe at Ashley Boca Mindfulness Foundation that everyone should have access to the mental health support they need, where, when, and however they need it. We offer support and educational services to those that are struggling with BPD, as well as the broad spectrum of mental illnesses associated with BPD and their loved ones. Visit the website at abmf.charity to learn more. Well, welcome, Michael. I'd like to introduce our facilitator, Michael Arterberry. I'm very grateful for his role and his own mentors played in his development. Michael has dedicated his professional life to helping people navigate difficulties of life and launch their future into motion. For more than 25 years, he has been helping teens and adults to use what they have gone through as a catalyst for success rather than an obstacle for failure. To learn more about Michael and the important work he has done, you can visit his website, michaelarterberry.com. We are honored to have Michael here with us today, and I will turn this on over to you now, Michael. Thank you and welcome.
All right, thank you very much for having me. You know, the title of the talk is Shake the Dirt. So what I'm going to do right off the back is I'm going to give you something to connect directly to that so you understand where I got the title from. So what I want to do is I'm going to open up with a story, all right? And the story goes like this. It's about a farmer and a donkey, all right? A farmer and a donkey. And this donkey is one of his favorite farm animals because once he finishes working with the donkey on the field, he brings the donkey back home and he allows the donkey to play and his kids play with them and you know, they ride him and they wash him. So the donkey is more like a pet / work animal. So he brings him home and it's a normal ritual. But one night he brings the donkey home. The kids come running out the house. They wash, they ride him. And then once they go in to go to sleep and go to eat, the farmer releases the donkey out in the field. And so when he wakes up the next morning, he goes and he whistles for his donkey. So when he whistles for the donkey doesn't show up. So he starts calling his name. The donkey doesn't show up. So the farmer starts walking around the farm and he's trying to find him. Now what happened was during the night, the donkey was wandering, and as he was wandering, he fell into an empty water well on the farm. So during the night, he had been making the noises, but the farmer didn't hear him. But now as the farmer's walking around the farm and he's looking for him, he hears the donkey making noises at the bottom of the well. So the farmer walks over to the well, he looks down, and he's like, wow, I want to get him out. So what he did is he called 6 of his friends over to the well. And he's like, how are we going to get him out? So one of his friends suggested that they get some rope and they pull him out the well. So they all got some rope and they start to lasso the donkey. They throw the rope, they miss. They throw the rope, they miss. They throw the rope, they miss. They finally throw it by his hind legs. He steps into the rope. They shimmy it up his body and they start to pull. They pull, the donkey moves. They pull, the donkey moves. They pull, the donkey moves. Then halfway up the well, they realize that the donkey's too heavy. So they lower him back to the bottom of the well. And now the farmer has to make a grim decision. Now see, he can't feed him food at the bottom of the well because that wouldn't make any sense. You know what I mean? And then he feels like he just can't starve him because if he starves him, like I said, he's more like a pet. So it's like, he just can't wrap his head around starving. Then one of his hot-headed friends was like, hey, just shoot him. He's like, nah, I can't do that. So one of his more reasonable friends came up behind him and he whispered in his ear. And he said, listen, you don't want your kids to fall into the well. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna have to sacrifice your donkey. You know what I mean? And we're gonna fill the well with dirt. We're gonna cover him with dirt. The donkey's gotta go, but then your kids will be safe. The farmer thought about it for a moment, and he's like, you know what? I think I can handle that. So all 6 of them got shovels, and they started shoveling dirt. And every time that dirt would hit the donkey would scream. And every time the donkey would scream, it would cause the farmer some distress. So you got dirt, scream, dirt, scream, dirt, scream. Then all of a sudden, the scream stopped. When the scream stopped, they gave the donkey a moment of silence. But then they went back to work. More dirt, more dirt, more dirt. The next thing you know, you see the donkeys right here. So they start shoveling cartoon style. More dirt, more dirt. The next thing you know, you see half his body. They start shoveling faster. More dirt, more dirt, more dirt. The next thing you know, that donkey walks right out of the well that he fell into. So listen, I'll tell you how he saved himself. Every time that dirt came across the wall, it would fall on the donkey's back. He would shake it off and he would step on it. And he took every scoop of dirt that was meant to kill him to save his life. So to kick this off, what I want to do is I want to share with you guys some of my dirt. Trudy, can I see that picture of my greenhouse, please? This right here, one more time, there you go. This right here is the house that I grew up in. Now, when you look at it, it looks like it's abandoned. You know what I mean? And a lot of people, you know, when I show it, when they first see it, they kind of smirk. But let me tell you something, keeping it real, the way you see it on the screen is exactly the way it was when I lived in it. So what I want to do is I lived there for 22 years of my life. I don't want to run you through the 22 years, but I just want to pull out some nuggets that I think is really important for this talk. First and foremost, I was embarrassed about where I live. Now, I wasn't embarrassed about where I lived with the people that lived in my neighborhood because their homes weren't much better. You know, growing up, I had the opportunity to go to a school outside my school district. My dad was a bus driver, and so I was able to go to the school where he drove the bus. So I was able to get out of my neighborhood to go to school, you know, and just to bring you back to kind of give you a feel of what it was living in the house. I remember being in kindergarten, you know, and getting on the bus. And I remember driving to my school, and I remember the houses changing as I got closer to my school. And when I got to the school where I attended, you know, they were big mansions. I remember getting off the bus and being afraid of walking into school because the kids would know that I came from a house like this. And I remember walking into the class and realizing very shortly that the kids couldn't understand or did not know that I lived in a house like this. And I slowly acclimated myself and I made friends. You know, I remember going over one of my friend's house for a play date. And I remember having a great time getting to his house. And, you know, he had a real nice house. I got out of the car at his house. His front yard was a full court basketball court. You know, his backyard was like 4 football fields long. And I lived in the inner city, so seeing grass was special to me. And then he saved the special part for me was the basement, which was a full arcade. So, you know, being at his house, I was having a great time. Now, I'm sharing this with you because when his mother finally was about to take me home, she comes out on the back porch and she says, Michael, we're going to take you home. Now, I didn't want to go on play dates because I was always afraid that if I went on a play date, you know what I'm saying? If I went on a play date, that somebody would go back and tell my classmates where I live. So guys, listen, I'm now thinking about this house. And I'm like, wow, you know what? He's going to tell everybody where I live, you know? So I remember getting in the car, we're driving home, and halfway home, I came up with an idea. And I realized that on my street was a house that was a church. And so what I did is I had them pull up to the house that was a church. I got out at the sidewalk. I tried to say goodbye so that they would just drive off. The parents were respectable, but they waited till I went up on the porch. I was afraid to go on the porch because then the pastor may come out and make me leave, but they didn't. Now, I tell you this because what is really significant about this story is that for 6 years that I went to elementary school, None of my friends that I went to school with knew where I really lived at. I would always take them to the church when they dropped me off from school. So, I was embarrassed about where I lived. On top of being embarrassed about where I live, if you see the house is in bad shape, my landlord never fixed anything. So in the wintertime, we rarely had heat. So check this out. My mom used to boil water. All right. She used to put water in a big turkey basin pans, and she would put them on the stove and she would boil them, and she would boil the water, and the water would create vapors, and the vapors would create heat. And that's how she used to heat up my apartment. Now, if the water from the vapors wasn't warm enough, you know what I'm saying, she would put on the oven. And then the heat from the oven with the vapors will heat up my apartment. So that's how we heated up my apartment up in the winter. Now, to bring you a little bit deeper into my dirt, if you don't have heat, you don't have hot water. So what she used to do, she taught me at a young age that, if I wanted, and listen, we had 2 bathrooms, a duplex, but no showers. So you only could take a bath. So what I would do is I would go to the tub and I would run cold water in the tub, and then I would go back to that stove and I would take that boiling water and I would pour the boiling water into the cold water in the tub, mix it like soup, wait for it to cool down. And I would take a bath to get ready to go to school. A little bit more on my dirt. You know what I'm saying? On top of that, I grew up in poverty. See, check this out. Both my parents worked full time. You know what I'm saying? My dad was a bus driver, like I said. My mother was a housekeeper. I had three siblings, and my dad was an alcoholic, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. And all of his money went to drinking. My mother raised 4 of us with a housekeeping salary. So we didn't really have much money. Now, when I said my dad was an alcoholic, let me tell you something. My dad was a raging alcoholic. Raging with a capital R. I remember growing up and a day wouldn't go by that before the day ended, I would remember, or something would tap me on the shoulder and say, hey, buddy, don't get caught out there, because don't get too happy, because you got to go home. You got to go home to that raging alcoholic father. And so that's some of my dirt, but I want to finish with this: dysfunctional with a capital D. Now, the reason why my house was dysfunctional was for all those things that I talked to you about. But when the leader of your home is alcoholic, you know what I'm saying? It trickles down. What I remember really most about it is that my parents would have these raging fights. And I was a little boy. And I remember when the next morning came, my mom would dress me. I remember just dressing me, talking to me. And we would never debrief anything that happened in the home. And she would just put me on a bus. And I had to take that stuff, And it's a catalyst to what pushes me to be the motivational speaker that I am. I tell a story about shaking the dirt because it's important. And we all know, everyone that's listening to this message know that we all have our own dirt. It may not be the same story as me, but we all have dirt. And what I like to do through this talk is just take you through a journey of things that I feel help me to be able to shake my dirt, not only to be productive, but to put myself in a place to be able to speak to people and help them on their journeys. So the first thing I want to talk to you about, and it's one of my tags, I call it be the driver of your car, not the passenger of your car. All right. So you're saying to yourself, what does he mean by that? So check this out. The mind is a powerful instrument. And whatever you feed your mind, your body reacts to. So if you just allow thoughts to come and come and come, and you don't vet them and you don't deal with them properly, you know what I mean? You can start to allow your life to become a reflection of all the things that you've gone through in your life. So what I mean by be the driver of your car, not the passenger of your car, is the fact that if I allowed all those things that I just listed to come into my mind and deal with the way I act, or the response, my response to life, more or less, check this out. I like to envision like life for people is like we walk through life and we may step on a landmine, and the landmine doesn't blow us up, but it causes damage. And what we have a tendency to do is we start making decisions that's happening in real time, not with what's going on in real time, but went on when the damage occurred. So what I want you to understand is as you think about your dirt, and one thing that I used to use as a benefit to move me through was the fact that I didn't allow where I came from to dictate the direction that I wanted to go. You know, I used it as a catalyst to be successful. And I'll tell you, I'll let you in on a little secret. In that house where I didn't have heat, I was about 10 years old and I went to sleep. I was cold. I was under my covers. I had on a hoodie and some sweats. And, you know, I was crying. And I promised myself that if I had my own kids, that my kids would never have to live up in the same environment that I was living in. And I say that to you when I talk about being a driver of your car. There's times where things got rough and my unborn children became the thing that I put in front of me to move forward, to strive towards that success. The beauty about that is the fact that I have two children. That my daughter's 17, my son's 14. I have a before and after story. You see what I'm saying? But my kids only have an after story. They don't have the before story because I did what I had to do and I broke the cycle. But I was able to do that because I didn't allow my dirt to be the driver of my car. And sometimes where it would get a little crazy and it did become the driver of my car, I would take my keys back. And that's what we have to do on a daily basis. When you feel like you're not in the driver's seat of your car, you got to take back your keys. The next thing I want to talk to you about, you know, we're on a farm. I had you, you know, experience the donkey. Now I'm going to take you to the wild. I'm taking you to the wild. You know what I want to talk about? I want to talk about the domestication of a lion. Yeah, we in a well with the donkey. Now I'm going to take you to the domestication of a lion. And what I want you to understand is that his instincts is for the wild, right? But the cage is an example of his abusive struggle and an oppressive background. Think about it. That's wild. He's in the wild. They put him in a cage. You know, now he's in a cage. You know what I mean? And it becomes a representation of what you may struggle with in your life. Living in the cage in captivity now becomes natural to him. So this lion from the wild is now in a cage and it becomes natural. Come on, follow me. Think about it. He makes his abusive background his normal. Ooh, makes it his normal. But I want you to understand something. There's a person that benefits when that becomes his reality. And the person that benefits when it becomes his reality is his trainer. Yeah, the trainer now benefits from him making the cage his normal. So let me slip this to you as I keep moving through my journey. Who benefits from you being in a cage? Just because something is familiar doesn't mean that it's natural. Let's think about that. So as I'm working through this piece with the domestication of the lion, I want you to ask yourself, what can possibly be a cage? You know, when we think about where we move in our journey through life, you know, frustration comes when you're a 55-mile-an-hour person and you feel like you're stuck in a 25-mile-an-hour zone. Let me tell you something. Just because you are born into a circumstance doesn't mean you have to stay there. Your cage is a learned behavior. So if you can learn to live in a cage, guess what? You can learn to hunt in the wild. Creating new systems and new beliefs of who you are and what you want to accomplish. What was once your ceiling, you can now make it your floor. Determine in your mind that what you had before is no longer better than what you are striving for. Let me tell you something. There's nothing more powerful than the opportunity of recreating yourself. A fresh chance to get it right. You know, I need you to understand as I drift from the donkey and I get into the driver's seat of the car, is that you need to rest in your future rather than wrestling with your fears. You know, we have a tendency to spend more time and give time to things that don't bring us value. So as you listen to me speak, think about the things that bring you value and allow that to be a place where you put your energy into it. You know, because what I want you to understand is that what I know is that there's a roaring lion that's in all of us. And once we step outside of our cage and we don't allow ourselves to be domesticated, we got to allow that lion to roar. But I want to finish with this. And this is something that I really like to stand on. And that is, how do you want to be remembered? Yeah, how do you want to be remembered? So I want to share something with you. You know, I was always a big person. You know, I was a big kid. It was always a joke. You know, not fat. I have to say I was fit even when I was little. But I say that to you because I had the choice to either be the bully or be the one to protect those being bullied. So I decided at a young age that I was going to be the protector. And let me tell you something. I wore it like a badge of honor. So again, I'm gonna bring you back to school. You know what I'm saying? Like anytime somebody got bullied, you know, of course, in my class, I took care of it. But I remember being in kindergarten and going to a second grader's classroom and be waiting for a second grader to come out if they messed with one of my friends. That's how serious I was about it. And I did this right through school. Elementary school, middle school, high school. And this is how I conducted myself. You know, once I got older, I didn't have to do any type of fighting, anything. I just learned to talk to people. Now I'm telling you this, remember, how do you want to be remembered? So I go to my 25-year high school reunion. I step up in there, you know how it is. You're seeing everybody that you went to school with, you know, and you know, I'm in the reunion and my class president comes up to me and says, there's people that are here tonight simply because you wrote and said you were coming. They called her, they emailed her. Is Michael Arterberry going to be there? And when she said yes, they came that night. And when I saw them, what was beautiful about it is that they remembered the times that I stepped out. You know what I'm saying? And I defended them and I protected them, and you could feel the love. But I remember I couldn't wait to get home to tell my wife what the class president said to me. Because listen, if you could script how you want to be remembered, please. But I can make that one even better. Listen, I'll take it one step further. That class president followed me on Facebook. You know what I mean? And so she follows me on Facebook. What I do on my Facebook page is on a daily basis, I put inspirational quotes, you know, something that people could come and read and inspire them for the day. So, you know, she was following me on Facebook. Remember, she still had the experience with me in grade school, high school, and middle school. And so she was touched even after we were able to attend school together. Now, I say this to you because she got a job working at a charter school. And so she wanted to I have a youth program that I developed, and she wanted me to bring my youth program to the charter school. So I remember her inviting me up, and I get up there, and then you get into the business meeting with the administrators, and you got everybody with the suits on. The room is real stuffy, you know what I'm saying? And so she's like, everyone introduced themselves. So everybody goes around, and then when they get to me, I introduce myself. Now, I'm a humble guy, so I just hit them with some simple facts, and I kind of jumped over me. But listen to this. She says to me, do you mind if I add a little something, Michael? So at first I was like, I wasn't sure about it. But then I said, all right, her name's Leanne. I said, go ahead, Leanne. So when this woman started to explain who I was and what I represented in her life, she started to cry. Now I'm sitting in the meeting and I'm like, whoa. Like at first I'm a little, uncomfortable. But then I was like, wow, I couldn't believe, you know what I'm saying, that I had touched her in that way. But then again, just like I said before, just like being at the reunion, when I sat back in my chair and I thought about the fact that how would I want to be remembered? Listen, there's no other way that you could want to be remembered, that you could touch a person that would bring them a place or to a place that would cause some emotion. As you go through life, you have moments where everything that you've gone through will make sense. Everything you've gone through will make sense. And everything will come into perspective. You know what I mean? And so as I speak to you about these stages and these things that you have to harness and evoke and to press forward with, it's because I'm living proof of it. I'm living proof of it. So check this out. I want to show you something special. Trudy, show them the picture of the new house. Boom. See that? You see that? Now listen, for some of you that's just, where I live at, they call it a raised ranch. It's a raised ranch. I got 3 bedrooms, a nice yard. You know what I'm saying? But listen, for me, that's my castle. That's my castle. Let me tell you something. It's so real that sometimes when I pull to the bottom of the driveway, I park and I look at it. And when I park and look at it, I say to myself, like, wow, like, yo, that's mine. You know what I'm saying? That's mine. Matter of fact, I got a picture. Trudy, put the ones with the 2 of them next to each other, please, so you can see the comparison. Look at that. Look at that. Where I started and where I live at now. I mean, that's crazy. That's crazy. But what I was able to do and what I try to push people to understand is that when you allow your dirt to be the catalyst of what pushes you to be successful, these are the things that you're able to obtain. These are the things that I teach to my children. What's beautiful is I have 3 siblings, like I mentioned, and they're doing okay, but they didn't choose the same path that I chose. You know what I'm saying? And I say that to you because I broke a cycle. I broke a cycle. My middle brother became an alcoholic like my dad. And if you watch all of his kids, they have similar situations in their lives because of him. My oldest brother became totally passive because of the dad that dominated him. So he took his dirt, and he's been in relationships where he was stepped on. My sister, I love her dearly, but the dirt buried her. All right. She's living, she's breathing, but not being able to deal with the dirt properly has put her in a position to live a life that I mean, I feel sorry for, but that's my blood. But when I say I broke a cycle, I didn't bring any of that into my home. You know what I'm saying? And so thinking about the dirt, thinking about being the driver of your car, thinking about the fact that I didn't allow what I went through in my life to domesticate or put me in a cage and trap me. You know what I'm saying? And always reaching to try to be something. You know, try to be something. You know, I just did a talk with some middle school kids, and you know, as I had reflected, I reflected back to when I wanted to be a motivational speaker. And I'll never forget. I think I was in college. And at the time, I was a social work major, and I dropped it in the group of my so-called friends that I wanted to be a motivational speaker. And they laughed. They laughed at me. You know what I'm saying? And it hurt my feelings. I'm not going to lie to you. It hurt my feelings. But, you know, what is tremendous about that is that I took it, and rather than taking it and allowing it, again, dirt and burying me, is I use that as a catalyst to be successful. So anytime, and I'm just keeping it real, they follow me on Facebook. So anytime I post something on Facebook, I laugh. I get the last laugh. But that's because I took my dirt and I used it in a proper way. I use it to press forward. I use it as an elevator, an escalator to get to the top of what I call my success ladder, you know. But I want to finish with this. And I wrote a book. It's called Be Encouraged. You know, when I talk about that, I put things on my Facebook page. I used to post those things on my page, and a woman sent me a direct message, and she said, you know, if I could get your stuff in one place, I would love it, Michael. And so when she said that to me, she was dying of cancer. Matter of fact, she was dying of cancer. And so, you know, I knew this from the posting. And so when she said that to me, I said, you know what? I went back and I compiled all my favorites that I posted. And I came up with 250, you know, and I put it in a book. And I dedicated the book to her. You know what I mean? And it's a book that it oozes the same passion that hopefully you feel as I speak on each page when you open it. It's written like a devotional, you know what I'm saying? And so you open a page and you get inspired for the day, you know what I mean? And so I'm telling you this because, you know, I'm sorry, I'm a storyteller, but on the second page of my book, all right, on the second page of my book, I wrote this, so you get a little treat. I'm going to give you a little nugget, all right? Short-term thinkers plant gardens. Long-term thinkers plant trees. Eternity-minded thinkers plant themselves in the souls of others. Whew. Yeah. Sometimes I just got to pat myself on the back. But let me tell you something. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is we have to live conscious lives. Conscious lives. You have to be present everywhere and anywhere you go. Not only do you have to be present, what I want you to do is I want you to be mindful of what type of essence and feel that you leave with a person or a place when you're done as a motivational speaker. You know what I'm saying? When I'm finished talking at a podium and I step away, I want to leave a certain essence in that room. You know, when COVID started, you know, what I did is I started to get on all these podcasts. And what I was seeing is that once these podcasters got my story and just to look and see the look in their eyes, that I touched them, that my story touched them, what I shared with them touched them. I thought about what I wrote in the book. I thought about living conscious. You see what I'm saying? Because living conscious puts you in a different place where your relationships have purpose. You see, when you just live in and you just exist, you deprive yourself from living a rich life. And so when you live a life of consciousness, things become more important to you than just waking up and just doing your thing. You know, I want to drop one little last nugget on you. And that is, I just want you guys to not allow fear to stop you. You know, fear is paralyzing. But one thing I want to share with you about fear is the fact that, you know, and I use the analogy of kicking your feet out of your bed and getting ready to put your shoes on to get ready to go attack that goal or that dream. You know, you reach down and you go to tie your shoe and the fear overwhelms you and you decide, you know what, I'm not going. And I say that to you because when you make the choice not to tie your shoes and attack that dream, there's people that don't get their dream because you don't pursue yours. So don't let it paralyze you. Put yourself in a position where you get up and do what you have to do, because your success becomes a ripple effect and it starts to affect all those that are around you. And it makes you a really important person in this world. So, you know, I'm just glad I had this opportunity to talk to you. I'm hoping that I motivated you and, you know, put you in a position of thinking about things from a different perspective. And I really enjoyed this time. Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you for this wonderful presentation. Now we'll just go into the Q&A portion of the webinar, and our moderators will help us out with that. Tricia, do you have some questions for Michael?
So starting with the first question, thank you again, Michael, for the presentation. In the age of a pandemic, what are youth experiencing? Are there any coping tools that are seen most effective? Are their coping strategies different from now, pre-pandemic?
Okay, so what are they experiencing? What they're experiencing is the lack of socialization, all right? And for a teenager, that's like suffocating them. You know, being able to socialize is how they feed themselves, you know? And what I try to do is I try to, no pandemic, teach them a way to feed themselves in the socialization piece in a proper way. You know, I speak to them a lot about not trying to get your value from other people, that you have to find yourself valuable first. And then once you find yourself valuable, you can lend yourself out to other people. So really right now, what they're doing is they feel this sense of not belonging because they can't go out and get fed. You know what I'm saying? But what I do to help them is, this is what I tell them. And what's beautiful is this happened in my own life. What I explain to them, which they can't understand, but we as older people can understand, is that the pandemic is going to be a short period of your life. Short. You know what I'm saying? Look at the vaccinations and all this stuff that's coming around. It's been a year. Even though it's been a long time to some of them, It's only been a year. So I explained to them that don't get caught up and make decisions that will ruin your life over such a small portion. And I told them, I said, you know, I didn't say a beer because I'm gonna use a beer as an expression, but I said, you'd be at a barbecue and you'd be with your friends kicking back a beer and saying, do you remember that time we had to wear masks? You know what I mean? So I just had a barbecue the other weekend and my buddy came over and we were cracking up because we're talking about, yeah, do you remember when we had to wear masks? And now we don't have to wear them. So I hope that was a good answer to the question.
Is growing the ability to shake the dirt off.
Right.
All about deliberate, conscious choices in every moment, and along with purposeful intentions and actions.
Yes. Blueprint. You got to have a plan. You know what I'm saying? You know, the way that you don't have to worry about regret is preparation. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? I think a lot of people don't put enough on the front end, so you don't get this success on the back. And it's like what I was saying with the consciousness. You know what I mean? When you live conscious, it's deliberate, and so you have a path. When you just reckless and you're all over the place, then you don't bring yourself to a place of direction, neat, clean, and focused.
Okay. So our last question here, or we might have another one here. Let's see. Okay. What if you don't currently have wonderful mentors and a support system? Like, where do you begin from that? Where do you find hope?
You know, what I've done, what I did growing up is, and it's funny that the world wasn't as dangerous, is you know, I just watched the men in my community. And when I found one that was doing things that I aspired to, either I would make it known so he would know he was my mentor, or sometimes I was able to watch from afar and get some tips on what I would like to do. Now, as a grown man at 53, I have mentors. So there's mentors that I have on YouTube. They don't know they're my mentors, but I go to them on a daily basis and I get fed. So what you do is you find someone that is moving in the same direction with you, with the same sort of goals, and you use that person as someone to help you as being your mentor. So you don't have to find a physical person. The internet has now put us in a position where you don't need a person, you know what I mean? Or you don't believe it or not, you grab a book. You grab a book with the right subject matter that speaks to your spirit. It can be a tool that is just as important as a physical person.
Mm-hmm. I agree on that one. Okay, last question here. What did you do different to your siblings? Why did you change and they couldn't change?
You know, love this question because I talk about it. Poverty is not just money. Poverty is a mentality. And what my siblings did is they bought into the concept of poverty, where I chose not to buy into the concept of poverty. Now, one thing that I have to say that may have put me in a different position, my siblings say it's not true, but when I was bussed out of my community, I went to school with people with money. So I would go to school with people with money, but then I would come back to my neighborhood where people had no money, but I was exposed to a different lifestyle. So when I aspired and I saw where I wanted to go, my siblings could only see where we lived. I was able to see what was bigger and better out there. And you know, I laugh sometimes because when I say I stop at the bottom of my driveway and I think about, wow, that's my beautiful home. Listen, Trisha, sometimes in my house, I'm sitting on my couch watching TV, and I remember being in a kid's house when I was a child saying, I can't wait till I get older and I'm going to make that my house. So, I think what was different is I was exposed, and I'm built different. I mean, I think that I'm a spiritual guy. Um, my manufacturer gave me all the proper tools. Put it this way. I don't want to mean to freak you out. I won't get too spiritual with it, but I want to answer it this way. I feel like the universe, the bad part of the universe knew the lives that I was going to touch in the future of my life. So it came to get me young to prevent me from doing what I was going to do when I got older.
Mhm. Oh, that was a great question. Great question. I think that's all the questions for now. I'm just gonna double check here, but looks like we've answered everyone's questions. If you do have any more questions, you can always email us, throw it in the chat box right now if you have it quickly.
Oh, thank you there for that, Tricia. And thank you again, Michael. And we're very grateful for having you here with us today. And should we get any more questions, yes, we will certainly pass them on, and you can help us out with that.
Okay.
Wonderful, inspiring, and thank you for making the time again to be with us today. And I'm sure those listening on the other side are grateful for the messages that you shared.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Diane.
Thank you.
And yes, and of course, we've got our next webinar coming up on July the 22nd, In a Strange Land, with Alex Sheldman. We'll be looking at, exploring the journey of people that are grieving a sudden loss, whether it's from suicide, accidental, or illness. So thank you again, everyone. And the recording will be made available as soon as possible and shared with you. Have a wonderful evening.